All right, so I'm going to call to order tonight's meeting of the advisory committee. It's 7:02 p.m. It's October 16th. And really we have a relatively simple agenda, but it might not be brief. The main item is to continue discussing ideas that can be the basis of improving our quality of our budget review and advisory process. And this is a follow-up to our August 21st meeting, which Ted graciously facilitated. So I'm going to turn it over to Ted at this point to kind of help facilitate this follow-up.
Yeah, let's go through the aim of the meeting, and then we'll get right down to business after we do that. And what we'd like to leave this meeting with is some actual go and do, some of those 25 items. I thought I had an operating pointer here. All right. The 25 ideas that we had at the August 21st meeting, we'll go through each of them, and some we may decide that we don't want to tackle, but the ones that we do, we want to say which ones can we complete by June 30th, 2019. And then more importantly, we want to define the timing checkpoints and our primary person responsible for each one. Not a lot of detail, but at least get a name attached to each of those 25 ideas. And here's how we'd like to go about it. The first, embedded in those 25 ideas, is to edit and review the budget guidance letter, the one that Don wrote. So we want to tackle that one first, so it doesn't get left out of tonight's business.
We have the draft today,
Yes.
right?
And we have that. But then after that, we'll kind of look back, and we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with how the 25 items were put into buckets. And we started with this list, and then maybe along the way you've seen the one that Brian just held up, this list with 4 buckets. And each of the 25 items is in there, and we'll just make sure you're okay with where it's landed, or we're okay with where it landed. And then we will go back to those, start going through those items in the buckets. And I think there's fewer than 25 of them now, but we'll call them objectives, whatever. And see if we can put some little bullet dots under each one relative to who's going to do what by when, that kind of thing. And the value statement, or why we're doing all this, is so that we can process as many of these objectives as possible in the near term by June 30th. And we want to gain the benefits so that we can deliver more value to the taxpayer. And if we don't agree with that, we shouldn't even be here. So that's why we have a value statement, to make sure that we keep focus on that focus. So I think the first thing we want to do is look at the budget guidance letter. I guess we call it a budget guidance letter. I've been calling it a budget objectives letter, whatever. And we can edit that. Man, the eyes.
So what you're looking at is a slightly edited version of the draft that Don Lowe submitted and that I circulated last week. So this is based on input that I've received from Ted and some of my own thoughts as well. And I wanted to have this version up so that you could react to some of the changes and then also add any others. But what I don't think we want to do is spend too much time on stylistic points. It's more about making sure the content is in there.
Is this common to edit his letters? Have you done this before, or?
No.
He's never even asked before, that I remember.
Has he asked? Or are we just doing this without letting him?
No, because he has, I thought he made a statement on this
Yes.
email that if
He wanted our input.
suggestions or
Oh, that's right.
edits.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's aware that we're discussing it tonight and editing it tonight.
Right.
Okay,
And it's perfectly logical because, I mean,
Yeah, makes sense.
advisory needs to be aligned with what
Exactly.
comes out of these.
I just wanted, since this is something new, I wanted to be sure that we weren't,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
we want to
Ruffle
be on the
feathers.
same, we want to be on the same page, and we don't want to ruffle
Yeah, I would edit it heavily.
So I think the edits in that first paragraph are more about,
What we did.
and also just situating, or describing the current situation, rather than, this doesn't really set any expectations other than that we think we need to continue to budget in a fiscally conservative manner. The major, I guess, change that is made in these edits is that we reference the fact that the state actually saw a 1.1 billion surplus for FY18, and I believe as of September, the governor had not made any decisions about how that surplus was going to be spent, if at all, but we can't assume Bolton will be a beneficiary of it, so that's why we still think the sticking with a fiscally conservative approach to budgeting makes sense.
Mhm.
So, did anybody have other proposed edits to these first two paragraphs?
Well,
You're good at it.
well, I'm not editing, that's the whole point, is I would not have edited quite resurgent it. To me, it sounds more blanket statement, like we all know that. But, you know, as far as, well, we don't know that non-money, I'm sorry, I'm backwards.
Yeah, we don't know what our certified free cash
I don't know, yeah, I think it's fine.
is. It's definitely, yeah, it's significantly lower, well, we don't know this.
We don't know. I
We don't
don't
know.
even know if
We don't know
that
that.
776 number or where they can, you know, I haven't confirmed that, so
Yeah,
that has to be
well, that's, we assume John.
adjusted when we get
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah, this is correct.
That is.
That was the amount of free cash certified by DOR this time last year.
Okay.
So any day, we should be getting the
Right.
XXXX thing. So we'll fill that in and, I guess, change it as appropriate.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, that is sort of the substantive addition, that bullet that we added.
So help me understand what exactly that means.
So, to take one example, let's say, and I'm not saying this reflects the reality, but let's suppose that in the conservation budget, there was a one-time expenditure for a specific study or a specific intervention on invasives, right? If that one-time expenditure was in the FY19 budget, we would want them to try to present an FY20 budget that's basically what the FY19 budget would have been if that one-time expenditure wasn't included,
Yeah,
you know?
That makes a lot of sense.
that's very good.
Budgetary sense.
I just wanted,
I mean-
you said it was clear enough.
Yeah, if it can be clearer, we should,
Maybe you should be a little more directive, Brian, just say, please remove any one-time expenditures from last year's budget. Consider, or somehow consider your budget to be, your fiscal 20 budget, I don't know, I have to sit down and mess with it, but something around, very clear, your budget for fiscal 20
Should not
should
include.
not include one-time expenditures from fiscal 19.
Yeah, because also,
We're zero base.
you're already expecting them to use the FY19 budget amount anyway, correct? So when you say, please try to present an FY20 budget equal to the, we want them to do that,
Right,
right?
right.
this is
Begin
calling
with.
for
So I
lower
wouldn't even
funds.
say, please try to present. I would say like, what Ann said,
Please present.
just
Yeah.
minus, I would just ask them, present the FY19, the FY20 budget as like the FY19, minus the one-time expenditures. They all know what one-time expenditures are.
Right. But I
I
think we
wouldn't
should,
ask them to please try to present an FY20 budget equal to.
no, I think we should say, please, be sure to remove any one-time oh, boy.
Because see, the idea is somebody may come through and say, I really need this one-time expenditure for 20, so you need to offset that with somebody had one last year.
But
Right.
he's doing
You
that. I
can't
think he's
compound.
asking anyone
Yeah,
to write a, didn't you
What's-
say
what's-
something about a separate?
what's confusing? It's
Excuse
clear to me.
Yeah.
Well, I would be a little less polite.
Yeah, I would be more.
I would be very
honest.
clear, if your fiscal 19 budget contains what, please remove them. Or please
All right, we
consider,
can divide it up into a couple
please
things.
consider your fiscal 20 budget,
Without,
without
Without.
without the
Excluding.
fiscal 19 one
Excluding.
time.
I would use exclude, please
Yeah.
exclude,
That's better,
or
yeah.
be sure to exclude.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Because I don't want them to try, I want them
Me
to do
Do
it,
it,
so we can
exactly.
see
I'm not
it,
asking anyone. to
and
do
then
it.
have the debate.
I want them to do it.
Right.
Because they're supposed to fill out or having some kind of supplement anyway if they need.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So the base budget is your fiscal 19 budget minus
Minus-
any
right, which is what
one-time
Brian is
expense.
saying there, but I think we should be more
I
active.
think you need to be really clear.
Yeah, we should be more active in
One time is clear, we don't need to say one-off or.
The one time is fine, that's a standard for most books. One office.
that. Yeah.
Which is, this is really.
Does that make
like a
sense?
budget cut.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you think that's clear?
Yeah?
I would exclude any one-time expenditures from the fiscal year
Really, you're excluding the one-time expenditure dollars, or, you know, because the expenditure itself is not in the
Right,
20 budget, because
one-time.
you already spent it, you know, you already did the
Well-
study.
Those
You're
one-time, items.
excluding those dollars from the base.
And that is an expenditure.
But you're excluding the dollars, that's really what you're excluding.
I think this is
I
just
think we
fine.
understand.
Yeah, okay, well,
I would-
yeah, it's.
Okay, we'll just leave that for now.
I would leave it. They understand what that means, though, the dollar amount, not the,
Great.
oh,
And the reason why I want to use those instead of any is because
And you pick
it's
any
possible
one.
that they might actually have a legitimate new one.
But it should be separate, when they do their budget,
Right.
they should isolate, this is my budget because I have this one-time expenditure.
Yeah.
To be very clear what they've added, but their base budget should be the fiscal 19 budget minus anything that was a one-time
Yep,
special expenditure in that fiscal year.
right.
Right.
Okay.
For the second expenditures, you would say items.
of course, we all understand that when you
Just
do
change
a
this to
level funded
items.
budget.
I just don't like the
it's-
Or
repetition.
amount,
it is
dollar
like,
amount.
One-time amounts.
A budget cut,
Dollar amount.
I mean, it's, because it's, everything increases, so, yeah.
If FY nineteen budget contains one-time expenditures, be sure to exclude those one-time dollar amounts from your FY budget.
Yeah.
All right, next paragraph.
That,
November 21st is.
Okay, let me ask you a question. So someone submits a budget and say, we're discontinuing this service because we really have found, we'd like to take this dollar to do that service. That's a new service versus an old service.
The budget's the same, so
If the budget's the same,
it's up to them what
they have to
do.
prioritize, so that's what they're doing.
But yeah.
hopefully.
yeah,
I
that's
think
part of
to
their
your question,
budgeting
if it's
process.
still being level funded, but they're just deciding that they want to do one service
Under
versus
different-
another,
Yeah,
I think that gives them a flexibility.
Yeah.
Is this meeting catered? I smell dinner or something.
So are we good with that paragraph for the time being?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then really the other, this is just like a little nit, this area right here. But then this, I wanted to make sure that we highlighted, please note that budgets and articles including all capital requests are.
Yeah.
Were they able to do this last year?
I mean, the fact is that there's always a little bit of drift in terms of when things come in, but most departments and committees got things to Dawn and Linda by the end of November.
That was, wait, we struggled with some of that stuff.
I think last year was an improvement, but we're trying to continue to improve.
Can I make one?
Yeah.
English major, get rid of utilizing, like, so just say using.
Used, yes.
You utilize the hammer, you use the budget funds.
Okay.
Well, I just feel good.
So if I send these edits to Dawn, everybody's comfortable with
Oh, yeah.
signing
Scroll
off on
up
this?
again.
You go back down here.
Yeah, right, yeah. And scroll down, rather.
The budget add at the bottom?
Pardon
Looks
me?
like the budget comma add, looks like somebody's complaining about your comma.
Am I
That's
missing?
Word.
Are you asking them to write it up separately somewhere?
No, that's being deleted.
I know,
where do you
that's
find
the,
the-
I think that's something maybe should not
Oh.
be deleted.
Okay.
The first comma after submission should not. Oh, no, I
Because
guess it has
At
to be.
least they feel like, you know,
I
if
don't wanna get
they're
into
strongly,
copy.
or something is really needed, but it wasn't in the budget, I don't see where they have an opportunity to feel like they could write it up.
So, one of the early paragraphs, I
It did? I don't remember. Well, if it
So,
did earlier,
Let me make sure I'm clear about what you're asking. So you're assuming that it's somebody who feels that they want to be able to do something that would push them beyond level funding, and so they're making a request for,
isn't that what
Yeah,
Don is
exactly.
saying,
Yeah.
what, that you deleted?
Yeah, it's right there.
Additional service.
so I
Second
think
bullet.
second bullet right here.
Oh, right there, there it is,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, an explanation is not exactly a written
Yeah,
summary and a proposed dollar amount.
You wanna say with a written explanation?
Well,
Yeah.
see, I wouldn't stray so far off from what Don is asking them to do. Because what we replaced Don's words with does not actually tell them they need to
Write a
it.
written justification.
Write it written with a proposed dollar amount. It just says explain, you know, give me an explanation. It's in front of
Write
me.
it down, please.
and how about this? If you have expenses that cannot be level funded, please provide me with a written explanation which will justify the increase and
The dollar, the
justify
dollar.
the proposed dollar amount. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because the,
You can say the proposed cost.
No, don't, please.
Or not.
If you're looking for it. See.
is that okay?
It's fine with me, but and I don't really want you to change necessarily anything. There's no mention of how to specify a one-time dollar amount for the upcoming budget. You see increases, but nowhere do you see, here's a one-time expense.
Well, I don't even know if it's
As we go line by
a
line,
one-time, I don't even think he means a one-time.
generally
expense,
comes out.
Actually.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I mean, if somebody,
It's really covered by that second bullet, I think.
people are pretty
That's fine.
forthcoming about
I think it'll cover more than that. It'll
Fine.
cover one time, and I think it'll cover something a department sees as necessary, and maybe,
And I include a shifting or increasing
Yeah,
fund
something.
rationale. I'm not gonna fund this, but I would like to fund that, but,
Or, yeah, it might cost me a little more, but it's much better than
yeah.
this.
Business.
All right, that's good.
All right, so I think we're good on this. Okay, great, thank you. All right, Ted, back
I'm
to you.
Okay.
You want me to pull up the,
Yeah, what is the group's desire on making being comfortable that the 25 items that were, handwritten on the whiteboard are captured here?
That's you.
I trust Brian, and I've checked a few of them.
Well, if you reviewed them and felt that that covered,
And it doesn't end the discussion forever. I mean,
No.
anyway, we can always
no, but
revisit
those are the
things.
ones that.
But I think it'd be worthwhile to save time for going through each of these, but I don't know.
yeah, I think people are comfortable with what came from this.
Yeah. So we call this our objectives. And we could approach this in several different orders, but I think we could just start on the left and go down the first column, liaison roles and responsibilities. That's near and dear to what we do. And just discuss in general kind of what we'd like to do going forward, and see if we can, if we want to crisp up the words here any, but see if we can identify either a person or a group of people that are going to be the primarily responsible for the path forward. And if we put a few checkpoints, those bullets under each one, that would be fantastic. And so the first one is discuss desired criteria, parameters, and inputs to advisory, including budgets and areas. I think we're looking at upgrading the information we receive, and kind of that's going to be a function of how we as liaisons function with our department committee. And so that may not be a primary person responsible, but maybe each of us.
Yeah, so this one strikes me as, like, some of the items up here, I think can translate relatively easily into, like, a discrete task or project, or we can complete by X time. But other ones are more iterative, like, we might, as we go through this year and the liaisons are interacting with their departments and then we're reporting back to one another, ideally, I think we would continue to discuss the types of inputs we're getting and brainstorm about, oh, this was helpful, or this would have been helpful, or, so this might be the type of thing that's not, I don't know if other people get where I'm going with this, but it's not necessarily like we put a due date on this one. It's more,
I think it may be worth, a few minutes discussion on what we consider a world-class type presentation to us, or some templates. Okay, a template that I like is somebody that says, here's how things are now in my committee or my department, and here's what I want to do. Here's how things, I'm talking about an article maybe now. Here's how things are now. I have a piece of equipment that this is how its functional capability is this, and I want to spend X dollars, and when I get done, the functional capability of the equipment is this. And the increment that you're buying from going from now to future is what you really want to focus on. This is what it's going to cost.
So Ted, what you're talking about, describing the current state, what you propose as a change or an upgrade, and then the benefits of that.
Yeah, kind of. And so, we have to, as liaisons, kind of adopt a few of these templates, and then when we meet with our people, try to get away from this, what I call fog. You get this warm feeling that, oh, this is all good, but you don't understand. I don't understand what you have now. If I don't know what you have now, I don't understand the incremental improvement. And is that incremental improvement worth the dollars you're asking for? So that's sort of my, that you guys, and numbers versus words are always, useful. And it isn't always just dollar numbers, it's, even if you want to repaint something, when was it last painted? How many, parts of it are defective? It's something numbers, not just, hey, we want to do this.
So I think with some of the spending articles and capital requests, a fair amount of that type of information could be elicited through discussions around this
Yeah.
sheet, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like, for example, talk about purpose and benefits, efficiencies created, service enhancements, regulatory requirements met. Because it strikes me that sometimes somebody might be requesting something not because it's actually gonna improve the service level, but because if we don't have it, we're out of compliance. Like
Yeah.
the leach field in the school comes.
Safety and meeting compliance.
What you want is them to quantify benefits, or to quantify the current state possible. Some things can't be brought down to a simple quantity, but if it's, if we get a new XYZ, we can process X more.
Yeah.
Or, the current life of this is this, we have these challenges ahead of us, we need to do Y. There's something that describes the current state, and then what the improvement would be, and what the benefits, quantify that. Quantify is good, data is good on this stuff.
What were you gonna say, Connie?
Well, it just, I don't know, there was something about what Ann just said that made me think about, maybe we didn't touch on as another bullet. What happens when we don't have discovery as far as something was in the budget, it was approved at town meeting, and then we get the money somewhere else, That happens to us often. So this money rolls back over into free cash, right?
The general fund.
Or general fund. Well,
If it rolls back into the general fund, it could be used.
the other night when we were at the Republican thing when Dean Tran was there, he did say that he got $300,000 for the leach field, didn't he? For the high school.
Yeah,
So how do we, that's $300,000 now coming from
but we did
another
not, I don't
source.
think we,
But
Did
yet,
we appropriate any money for it?
we're gonna be,
we had to appropriate it because you can't
You can't
second guess, you can't
Right.
bet on the come. You have to appropriate it, so
So
we
your
just won't go out
question
and borrow it or we
Is
won't.
what happens to $300,000
$300,000
appropriate?
though now,
I don't
there
know.
goes our, I just think towards
Well-
the end of the year, we'll use that. We can use that for other,
Should that go back to the general fund for
So,
other appropriations? Is that
a
what
lot
you're
of
what
it-
I'm thinking.
Yeah.
A lot of it will be very case specific, because a lot of those spending articles, like we would be borrowing. So part of the question is sometimes,
We
depending
just
on the
don't
timing,
borrow.
we haven't even
Borrowed
borrowed
it,
yet.
yeah,
So we don't do it, so then the debt
Roll.
service would basically roll into the general fund.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I think Ted is sort of making this point, but like even with that amount that Senator Tran's talking about, like, we still can't even count on that until it's technically been released by the governor's office. And I think similar things happen where we will need to appropriate for it, because even if we've sort of,
I
It
checked
is
with Don Lowe,
appropriated, isn't it?
and it got through the Senate, it got signed by the governor, but then there's some other little step where the governor has to release it.
Yeah.
I mean, it boggles my mind how that is the case, but, so it's in the pipeline.
But does it remain with the school budget?
No, it's not the school.
Was it in the school budget? No.
No.
That was
No.
separate.
No.
Each town had to kick in money.
Right.
That's right.
And so presumably that 300,000 will be divided among the three towns too.
Let's get back to.
Sorry, I was just trying to figure out how.
I think if you want to capture
Why did
the,
you, yeah, put this
Yeah.
one up.
Let's get
the
The
nub
lawyers
of
list to check it out, so we know what.
what we're saying. If somebody's going to make a presentation to us, now versus future is a good template. Numbers is the second thing that I think we appreciate seeing. And not just dollars, but some metric, what are you measuring?
Quantify
Yeah.
improvement,
Yeah, that kind
of cost avoidance.
And then the other thing that I like to see is, I like to see how that your activities are aligning with your mission, that we don't have mission creep. Because people have a department or whatever, and it's easy to start doing other things, and, you need to stick to your mission.
So would that include like one-time expenditures? Because some of the things that someone could argue, it's like, here it is now, but I need a study, I need to pay for a study in order to improve it, or quantify it, or whatever. So where I'm starting here and I end up here, but they have to do the $25,000, $75,000 study.
Well, mission, I don't know how much mission
How-
creep you see in the municipality, where there's
That
endless
means-
resources and strong ambition, like in a company, there's loads of mission creep.
And I'm just saying I don't want to see that. I'm just saying what you're doing should align with your mission.
Yeah.
I'm not
Okay,
saying
yeah,
it
that's a good,
exists.
that's
I'm
a
not
good way
saying
to
it
put it.
exists.
Okay, I get it.
When I hear people talk, I'm thinking, how does that align with what you're doing? And we have missions for most of our, they're self-developed, they haven't been audited, and they're not official, but it's the best we got from each department. Any other, we can always loop back.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that those points about quantify and now versus future are really.
And I think when we meet with people, it's just tell them, hey, you're going to be talking to a bunch of people that really don't know your department, so you know, set the stage around them, don't worry about telling them what they know, because they don't know much. Anyway, let's see, what do we got here? Perform advanced review of inputs from departments and brief rest on advisory.
So that's our job,
Maybe somebody
as
knows.
liaison,
Yeah.
looking at the budget and coming back, that's a fairly straightforward.
Yeah, and that I think that's not anything that
We don't do
have
now.
to, yeah, it's not something we have to assign a due date to, it's just an aspect of what the liaison should.
Well, we need to get our information packages, preferably, working people do this kind of thing on the weekend. So, I mean, it'd be nice to have our info package like Thursday, Friday, so that we're ready for the next Tuesday. If we just find it on the table, when we get to the advisory meeting, it's very hard to skim it and digest it.
Or even try to get in touch with the department,
But hopefully,
talk to someone.
other than the first few departments, in theory, we should have weeks of time between when their budget sheets and other plans are laid out and when we actually.
Yeah, in theory, but, well, yeah, but
December.
I think what the liaisons have to do, and I can't say that I've done very much as a liaison yet, is let everybody know what we're expecting and that we don't want budgets to suddenly appear. Because we do have a couple of offenders in that regard.
Well, once the note from Mr. Logo's out, it'll be fairly clear what is expected, I hope.
Right, it will be, but there are, this, yeah,
It gives them a month, I think.
it gives them a month.
Well, this kind of relates just to one of the items under the chair/town hall bucket, which is to add depth to meeting agendas and prep materials. So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Last week, I received an email saying that we were gonna have another transfer request from the veterans agent, and should that transfer request be considered at tonight's meeting? And I just exercised my discretion to say no. I wanna put it off until next week because I want some time to like
Let's see
get
what
some
it's
more
all
due
about, yeah.
diligence, because honestly, like, I would not have been able to get you guys enough information by tonight for us
Make
to
a
have a
decision.
meaningful
Sure.
discussion.
And it has to be on the agenda, which is posted X time before. the
Yeah.
meeting.
And to be fair, we would have had enough time to get it on the agenda, but I just said, we won't have enough time to get the information. And so I think, like, related to the performance of the advanced review of inputs, so if we know that specific departments are on the agenda for their actual operating budget meeting,
We ought to have to.
and honestly, I
We
think
need to
we
do our
will.
homework first.
Like last year, we got everybody's operating budgets by December, and then our real meaty sessions didn't begin until January. But in the instances where we get information late, I might just have to say, you know what, we'll see you next week, because we need, I want the liaison to talk about
Right,
Yeah.
it.
which is actually what we've done in the past.
Well, you want to see what you're quantifying, benefits or improvement.
Oh,
Because others they're looking to quantify what. You gotta be literal on that one.
All right, are we gonna note anything under the second objective there?
Well, that's basically.
Well, we need to allow for review time. That's,
Yeah,
or ADV review time,
Oh, advisory.
advisory review time. And no more risk in this guy.
is that fair?
Yeah. Okay. Ready to move on? Strengthen relationship with the Neshoba Regional School District and consider a proactive budget message. And I think the genesis behind this item was that the school budget, well, education, which includes other than just the regional school, is 55%, I believe, of total budget. 14.5 million versus 23 million. And it is also increasing and compounding by the greatest percentage. And how sustainable is that? And what are the kind of signals that are being sent from the town to our school committee? I guess citizens can call and whatever, but maybe it's appropriate for advisory to
Was,
whisper something in
they
their ear.
request a certain percentage, and we always send a letter asking them to lower it, to X, whatever.
do we
So that's it.
have an assigned, I know that Stowe at least seems to have
We try to get the
one of the
selectmen
selectmen
to
who
sign it.
attends every school.
And we also are in conversation with Stowe and Lancaster to make sure they send us everything.
I want to actually have you say that, because this is history I don't know, and I think it would be valuable to hear in prior years, like, how have objectives like that been communicated?
We will construct a letter advising. We always have, when the school budget comes out, they ask us for a certain percentage, 4%, 5%, whatever. We always go back and say, no, all we can give you is whatever. And we will know by then. I mean, it's a legitimate, it's not just something we make up. And then we ask the selectmen to sign it. And then we're in conversation with Stowe and Lancaster select boards so that they can send the same letter.
Okay, so we do coordinate with you.
We try, yes, and we hope, and Don does a good bit of that, so.
What's the time when is it done?
Well, it's when we get the numbers from, and the school always is the one that abuses, honestly, their time factor as far as getting us the numbers. So, I'm not sure that abuse is the word, it's just that
They stretch.
they stretch.
They challenge us with a short
Yeah.
reaction one.
Right.
They push off.
So that actually raises an interesting point, which is, and maybe with the word, consider a proactive budget message. Would there be any value in trying to send signals earlier about what we would like to see from them? So that instead of reacting to the numbers they give us, we're actually saying, hey, listen, this is what we're thinking. You know, are you,
We can give
And they
it,
need to know that, I don't know about Bill and Lancaster, but that we're level funded this year. You know, which makes a difference. They have to understand that there's no extra money for different services, much less added things that they would like to do in their budget that we would potentially have to put on money.
Where is the
More votes.
regional system? Is this something that John takes some leadership for in behalf of the town?
for every use as I know.
What's that about their
Just
budget?
going to the Nasoba regional budget and say, here's what we can do, or here, to the other
It doesn't
towns. How
work
does that
that way.
happen? How does that happen?
They have a day, isn't it
Right.
just a Saturday? And in a matter of a few hours, they have their entire $14 million budget done. And,
So,
you know, I
how
mean,
many years have we been level funded and how many years have they come back with 5 or 10% increases? Just wondering.
Well, we've been, our
Everyone
stated
that I've
objective for.
seven that I know of.
Yeah, every year that I've been on the board, which is now, well, Ted and I were on together, level funding is always the
Goal.
goal.
I thought one year they were really good citizens and came back with a very, very small increase.
They use their,
Very
Oh, yes,
small.
they use their E&D.
they use their, but that was also to they also let us know that, guess what, next year,
We
it's
don't
gonna
have-
be a,
Right.
you're not, we cannot cooperate as
It's
as
a,
much as we did this year, because we have to
it's a one-time
refund the
thing.
E&D. So,
I think being proactive has a lot of value because it's not fair to them to not
wait,
know how we might, for us to respond at the last minute and then what do they do? I mean, but unless they already know what they're gonna do,
Proactive is nice, but if it's the 7th year in a row we've said let's level fund, and I don't know that any new, they're not gonna get any new information from that until we start saying, oh yeah, 2% increase is fine.
I'm not even sure they get the Don Road letter that says we're gonna level fund,
I don't know.
yeah, I don't think.
which
they
is
would-
maybe the problem.
It would be nice.
Yeah,
to
we're-
Yeah, let them know. And I don't know, of course, I forget who the school, are you still the school?
Ted and I are, the problem is that, I think as a technical matter, our town administrator can't send a budget message to the schools because the school committee is in charge of their budget.
Oh, no, I know that, but we can give them, we could CC them a copy of the budget message saying this is, you know, this is the letter that is going out to all of our department heads. just
Yeah.
To let you know
To do
that
that.
this is the situation we're doing, and
That's a good first
Well,
step.
Please be fiscal
It can be.
responsible.
Well, and related to that, we might need to plan for this, so maybe at a tri-town meeting, I believe, did you guys get the notice?
Yeah.
there is one
December?
coming up, when is it?
I only saw one for December, I don't know that there's one before that, but maybe if we want to put on the agenda, like, have each of the towns discuss their approach to budgeting this year, and then ask how the district plans to approach it, you know, so that it's a conversation among the 3-member towns, where everybody's saying, hey, this was the letter we sent, this is what we're asking our town departments to do. And then,
It's a good idea.
But it could also be an opportunity to say, you know, what messages do we routinely, or what can we send to the regional school committee? around our reality.
And we can tell them anything we want, they don't
They don't pay
they don't
attention,
have to pay
but they will
attention.
never pay attention unless you sort of
That's right,
somehow
you have to let them know
describe
what's.
what the opportunity is.
Exactly, that's why I was saying maybe see them just as an advisory, make sure that they understand it, we're not, or Donna's not telling them how to do their business. But this is the situation we're in. I don't know how much difference it will make. But I think the more communication we have, and the tri-town meeting is supposed to be an opportunity to do that.
I think you mentioned it's just even a question of how you handle it, how you approaching if you can get on the same page with your counterparts in the other towns,
Right.
at least you have some consistency in what we're asking of the school committee. They may ignore it, they may find that it is, naive, but at least it would give us some sense of, that we made an effort to explain the situation the towns find
Yeah.
themselves in. This school.
Maybe they could fill us in on some things that they know ahead of time.
Right.
What's coming up.
We need another T in expectations.
Pardon me?
Another T in expectations. They don't-
Expectations, yes.
I mean, knowing that early is always helpful, but they not play out analysis of being any savings or any efficiencies, but at least to have the conversation.
Ted, was there more that you wanted to discuss on that
I
one?
don't know, I mean, it is such a big part of our budget, I'm wondering if there is more. We can move on.
Who are our liaisons with the school committee from the advisory? Okay, you guys. okay.
Yeah, if you have any input, outside of the meeting, you can email
Okay.
either or both of us, because we haven't had our first meeting yet, and rather than disclose it on
That's all right, that's fine.
the
I think
public
it's
forum,
fine.
you can let us know.
No, I just think the communication is all good.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, we want to find out where they are and what their process is. Okay,
That's a good thing.
moving briskly along. Specify the liaison functions, roles, and responsibilities.
I think we did that.
Pretty much.
That's
did that.
basically what we're doing here.
End of that, right. Enhance role with capital plan.
So what is
And
it?
this is another group that, is elected and it's, they're kind of a free,
No, they're appointed.
no, they're appointed, but the planning board chair is elected. Eric is.
Yeah, but he just happens to, he had done double duty for a while, but capital planning is not elected.
So they look at all capital proposals and prioritize or
Yeah, and.
evaluate.
And the reason why I thought, so this sort of involves me as the chair, but also, what?
I found it very funny. Anyway, okay.
You voted for Eric because he's on the planning.
He's on the
board,
planning board.
Yeah.
But that's different from capital.
He's
planning.
not ex officio on capital planning, he's also.
yeah. Okay, sorry about that. I was thinking planning board, not.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
So, here's what I was thinking for capital planning. So I talked to Mike Gore, who's the current chair, over the weekend. And, we want to try to do things a little bit differently this year. So we were thinking, assuming that all the capital requests are submitted by the end of November and that we get them by December, I suggested that we actually have the first couple advisory meetings in January be cross-posted with capital planning, where all we do is focus on the capital requests.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So
That's
that
a good
the
idea.
department heads are able to give their presentation to both
Once.
audiences.
Right.
And when
We hear the same things.
And when we ultimately go over the operating budgets, we don't get bogged down with the capital stuff, because they'll have already
Yeah,
gone
that's
over that.
brilliant.
That's a great idea.
But the reason why it's also under liaison roles and responsibilities is because I think what I'm imagining happens is we have maybe 2 or 3 meetings at the beginning of January and identify potentially a slew of follow-up questions or things that we want a little bit more detail about before we feel we can vote on things. And that's where I think the liaisons can be working with the relevant departments and capital planning to nail down those details so that by the time we vote on them, we have everything we need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
That does it?
okay.
Okay. Let's see, research projects, these are probably a little broader scope. Compensation plan and job classifications we need to understand and possibly offer. I think the genesis of this was we asked some questions last year, and we were presented with a draft of a personnel policy or a salary administration policy, a draft. So I think it'd be interesting to see the final, assuming that exists at this time. And then there's some questions that brings to mind. You know, we say, oh, everybody's getting their 2% increase. It's a lot more than that. There's a step change recently. And, you know, it's nothing, we don't want to take a deep dive into it here, but there are just a lot of questions. So we need to
Just need to know how it works.
sit down with somebody
This
and,
is how it works.
We need to know how it works. We have to be careful because we are not supposed to make recommendations
Right.
of personnel policies.
I can't remember exactly, there was a beat we had a few years back, the way they figure COLA. I think they add the step and the raise or whatever it is, and then the COLA. And we always felt like, no. There was, I have to call someone to see what was, we were always just told that's how we do it.
Right.
No reason, like, why, is there a mandate or something?
So
And
that's
it
sort of
seems
a
like they
fact
got-
that we need to understand.
That-
Yeah, we need to understand
Understand.
before we
but
can.
that's how it works.
Process.
I mean, there's different goals.
Right.
And so how it works is key.
Right.
And we need a copy of the final
Right, the determination
document,
of
policy, whatever.
salaries and,
Who's going to be the person to kind of, should you be that sort of?
Well, I was gonna suggest, I think we maybe need, I'd like to know who else besides me is interested in this, because so our new HR person, her name is Mary Beth. I've met her once and she's great. And I think she'd be really willing to help us understand things. But I'm just wondering if it would be good to have another person potentially sit on our meetings, help research. Like one thing that might be helpful is research on how other towns are doing it, you know? That's not something necessarily that we would be talking with Mary Beth about, but it might be an aspect of understanding our own position.
Well, I think the first thing to do is understand how we do it. And then if we are uncertain or we want to get some comparison, we can do that. But I think that's a big scope for us to start doing is talking with other cities and other towns. I think the first thing is we need to have a baseline understanding of how we handle it and how it's calculated.
Yep.
I'd be comfortable with sharing that with somebody.
couldn't a notch can be the one that, explain
Right.
the codes and the stuff?
Those of us who have days available.
I'm sorry?
We need people who are available during the day to be able to
But it's just an educational thing, because right now, we don't know how
We don't
it's
know how
applied,
it's-
what it's supposed to be applied, what's required under union contracts, what is not, who does it cover, I don't know any of that stuff. So I think that, just to
I think
get a
they
baseline
explained it,
understanding,
yeah. I
at
think
least a
it
good
was,
start. And then worry about how other towns do it. It's kind of a big scope. Because we may not be in a position to influence that.
So who wants to work on this?
It'd be great to have two people, and we could
Ted, do you want
meet
to?
with Mary Beth, get an understanding, and then maybe set up a meeting with Mary Beth and our group. When we
Okay,
don't want
great.
everything being just
Having
coming
done
through our conduit, but kind of.
step and increases for the library 20 years ago, at least I know sort of how it worked then, so I have some, I don't know the personnel committee gobs then. So do you want to do it?
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay. Since we're available during the day, if we're all sort of. And I'd like to make it the first time.
You are the primary people responsible.
Oh, boy.
PPR.
Wow. Okay.
All right, that's a good start on that,
I think it's
I think. I mean, we just have to keep feeling
I think the
back.
first thing is just to understand it, and then we worry about how we stand next to our other communities.
You guys are aware that we have a personnel bylaw that's on the website, so I think, starting there before even meeting with Mary Beth.
Yep.
Okay, labor negotiations, collective bargaining, what is our role? How should labor agreements be presented to town meeting?
I was always told.
Great
not like
questions.
Yeah.
I've been at 25 town meetings, I don't remember.
No, I don't think, we've never ever had a labor agreement.
We,
I don't
We have
think,
no role.
Good.
the town meeting does not approve labor agreements.
I think
yeah,
Select-
not in our purview at all.
It's a selectman.
It's the selectmen and town
Town
administrator.
administrator.
Yeah.
And we've been told that many times.
Yeah, we
And
don't-
it's
I don't know
good to take
if
one of your
there's
offices.
something else.
Yeah, I don't think we can get involved in labor negotiations. It's just out of our statutory
Right,
purview.
responsibility.
Okay, well,
Well-
I'm gonna push back,
Yeah, I'm good, guys.
So-
You push back and then I'll push back.
I'm gonna
more,
push
just
back
to let me know.
because I do think it's worth, so the first question is, what is our role? The answer may be none,
But we should still understand the process.
but we should know why the answer is none. But I know that there are very different practices in other towns where, like, at least at town meeting, the town meeting is asked to vote to basically ratify
Oh, really?
the contracts. So it works very differently in some towns.
Ah.
So I want to at least understand why some towns do it differently. And maybe at the end of the day, what we're doing makes perfect sense, but I know that there are other ways of approaching it. So I want to understand that. And I mean, I'm happy to take the lead on this, but
At a minimum, I would like to see labor contracts when they're complete, better yet, as they're being developed, step by step. Because I don't want to go to an advisory meeting and somebody say, you have to vote on this because we negotiated that. And then you hear from another knowledgeable party, you don't have to vote on that. You don't have to approve that because, you know, it's just gets, in my mind, confusing. So I think if I see the document, I know kind of what it says, you know, whether
Well, we
it's.
can certainly
But if
see
it's in the contract.
contracts when they've been ratified.
Right,
That's
we
the
just
baby
can't-
step.
Have anything to
It
do
is
with
the base.
negotiation.
It is the big step, but we don't have a role in negotiations, and I believe there are confidentiality.
Yeah, I'm sure that as things
So
are going
why don't we
on.
just find out more about it?
Yeah, let's
Brian,
explore
and
it.
then come back and say, is
So
there
go
a
back
role?
to
would
what
we
is
do?
our role, and
What can
and
we
we
do?
can proceed from there.
We want to do anything.
yeah, I mean, we don't want to do anything that runs afoul of any laws. but I think we're kind of just trying to establish what
Right.
the boundaries of,
Well, I just think understanding it, if you have that conversation with Dawn or whoever, that's the place to start. I wouldn't put this as a formal thing to do right away. I
Right.
think it's more, we don't know what we don't know.
Okay.
That's,
Okay. All right. Municipal funds, understand all the town's funds, including special purpose funds. Is that what we talked about last time?
General purpose, sewage treatment plant.
Free cash, stabilization.
there's like there's the
Well, we have
conservation fund.
There are trust
Conservation
funds, there's a
fund, we have
conservation
environmental leach field pump filter media
Is
fund.
is that something we'd have Nanachi to come in and go over everything
she
with
could
us?
go over that with us, I'm sure.
Yeah, or even have an initial conversation with somebody here and then come in, you know what I mean? And talk to us about it.
But it would be nice to have a list, just know what they are and how they function.
That's not anything that was included in the warrant, any of that,
No, it isn't, but
anyway. So no.
No, it's part of the accounting, it's basically part of finance. What funds are they being used, what are they useful, what are they restricted to, what do they set up?
it's not anything that we necessarily have control of, but if there are numbers
I'd like to know.
that get
I'd like
fed
to know
in.
when it's been used,
Exactly.
you know? how
And there
often
seems
it's
to be a
funded.
lot of desire on parts of some people to create new ones, and maybe for good reason. You know, take care of a need that's gonna be every, say, 10 years or something. And maybe that's the best way to do it on a parole, but maybe not. I don't know. I gotta think about that.
Well, what are the types of things we would want to understand about any fund? We'd want to understand what the money can be spent on, the mechanism for inflows and outflows, the statutory purpose. You know, maybe we'd want to even know when it was established and how often it's been used.
I want to know that,
Those are.
but how often it's been used.
Yeah, because if it hasn't been used, maybe we need to reassess.
I know there've been several funds retired.
Yep.
Yeah. I could just speak to the conservation fund, which was established by the state law that created conservation commissions. Conservation commissions sound like it's all invasive species and, you know, endangered species and saving trees and so on, but the state's most important function is protecting watershed. And I know when I was on the commission, it was many, many years ago, they would only put a minimum amount, either $50 or $100 into that fund because they knew that the town didn't like it to be used. But it exists. That's
What is
just
it now,
one.
30,000?
Yeah,
But
30,000.
that's been built up over a long time.
My understanding, the purpose is different than anything that's been mentioned so far. I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know, I don't know.
I might say the
I
wrong
think,
thing.
I think the function, the purpose is for acquisition of property. And I believe, but don't quote me on that some of the land-rich and tax-base-rich communities like Lincoln use that money for setting up the trails run through the town and so forth.
Have that. Oh,
It would be interesting just if there were a purchase opportunity, now, who has the authority I mean, how much can you even spend? Where do you get your authority to?
Yeah, I don't know, that's, a lot of that's in the enabling legislation, I think. But since well, we're the liaisons for conservation,
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Connie and I are the liaisons for conservation, we should check with,
Right.
It's only one fund.
It's only one fund, I don't know anything about the others.
I'm wondering if the first step is to create
Just a list of funds.
and also a template for the information for each one that we want to get filled in.
So let's see what Natasha has, because I would imagine already in the system somewhere is the name of the fund and its purpose
Yeah.
and its balance. Even may have a date that it was created. So let's see what she has before we go on our mission to create something.
Right.
Who wants to be our primary responsible? PPI.
I can do that. That'd be cool.
That's the first thing, they may dazzle us all, they have everything we need. That would be great.
Yeah.
She does, she's good.
If you want to capture a template, then you have it.
No, let's see what she has, and then if it's not sufficient, we can mess with it.
Yeah. But we should have it, the things that were mentioned
Yeah.
for the template, so like
Well, places start to see what she has, and then add the.
historical use.
And you just put history.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Cool. Okay. Hey, we're making progress. We only spent 10 minutes on the whole column. The chair and town hall, gather future review estimates for the purpose of developing forward-looking.
So this is more, to be honest, this is probably something we're not going to accomplish by June 30th, 2019. But it's about a goal of being able to have a decent forecasting tool. So this is more of a this is like a long-term thing that we're building up to. Because I know some other communities are basically able to take their 5-year history and then based on kind of all the research questions that we're resolving in these other buckets, they have certain assumptions that they use to project out 5 years. And I'd like us to get to that place so that then what we can do is we can play around with those assumptions live in the spreadsheet to see how things might change based on decisions we make. But to be honest, we're just not there yet. We're not.
Couldn't we take our current, if you have an Excel spreadsheet and you have a budget on it, you just save it under another name and you can play around with it. You can make various assumptions and
Yeah, we can do that, but what I have in mind is something a little bit more so that our assumptions are more informed based on historical trends.
So,
Now, would the departments use capital planning's prioritized list when they do this? Because what might be really important to them, 1 year may not be high on the list of priorities for capital planning, so it might skew
I think you're mixing capital.
their.
Yeah.
This is mixing capital.
Yeah, so
planning
I had in mind
with
the
generic
operating
department.
budget, but we would basically use the capital planning committee's 5-year plan.
Right, which I have
Well,
some.
that's how- okay.
I think it's not bad to use multiple budget years to try to predict, but wouldn't the department itself be more able to say or predict what their expectations were for several years out? So you can't, wouldn't think you'd be able to just say, yeah, this year is 5% greater than last year because the last 3 years were growing at 5%. I don't think you can do anything like that. You don't know that, for instance, the libraries, we won't put somebody new on forever, like a new employee, or the,
For the fire department.
well, the fire department's gonna be some,
The fire truck, right?
yeah,
Oh,
although some of those
Some of
turn
those
back
are
into capital planning
capital
issues,
planning.
which are still important, but as far as a generic, you know, year-over-year budget
Well,
changes,
if we're continuing to tell our departments that they have to level fund, I'm not sure whether that's valuable information. I think the big stuff for us is really the big hits in terms of capital planning, building improvement or whatever. Because anything year to year on the budget is gonna be restricted.
Yeah, but if you take, if one takes the budget and you create two columns over here, the dollars are either under the purview of our advisory committee or they're not. We only have, I don't even want to use the word control, we have influence over 10%. We don't have influence over any of the education, any of the debt service, because that was agreed to years ago. And all the labor dollars.
And the
So-
chances of us getting that or having any influence over it is,
So what we're saying, if, in the past year, we looked at the, what was it, the Government Association, that
Oh, the GAO?
GA, whatever, yeah.
government high office.
I mean, what they're looking for is, and what the town of Northborough does, is, I believe they have a 10-year forecast, and you don't look at every little, you can get your labor in a lock, and you can say, you look at which things have the biggest levers, you know, where are the things that are gonna make your budget really move, and of course, education is one. And you find out these things, and you have to decide which ones are you gonna hold constant, which ones you're gonna vary. You run a whole bunch of cases, you know, here's my conservative case, here's a case when the economy is bad, we have all these expenses, here's a case for high interest rates. You know, it's one of these things that takes somebody who's kind of into numbers and budgets and finances and it's not a precise thing. It's not really a forecast. It's an estimate. Yeah, it's a forecast, but it's an estimate. But right now, our you know, we're looking out the windshield. We're not seeing very far ahead, and this helps us if you have a model. It helps you kind of extend your
I guess
vision forward.
I'm not sure. I mean, I would see that certainly in
Just think that,
business where there aren't constraints to the degree that they are in the town. I mean, there's very little that moves in the town budget. I mean, it's the annual COLA, it's when they hire a new person. You know, I'm not sure there's a return on the investment of that kind of analysis.
well,
From 2000 to 2015, the movement was from 8 million up to over 20 million.
And that was driven by what?
Well, this middle part
Right.
is the driver.
Yeah, but we have no control.
And there are some towns that are bumping up against their 25%.
from 2.5.
20 or 25.
2.5%.
The $25 a thousand, whatever it is. So it's,
But those are towns usually that are also school districts, so the town meeting can.
but I'm just trying to make the point that things do move and people only want to be surprised on their birthdays. And so if you can look ahead, you avoid surprises. That's the kind of thinking.
So the reason I pulled this open is because it's what I want to build toward, but you'll see that a lot of the inputs that would go into a forecast like this, a forward-looking forecast, are actually things that are not even departmental. It's things like revenues that you have to pull from prior cherry sheets, new growth that you have to pull, like I don't even have any of that data yet.
Yeah.
Local receipts, other available funds, all this stuff that like, I need to work with town hall to get that information. It's not a departmental, it's not like asking the departments, where do you see your trends?
I think we want to minimize asking departments for things, because
Well, let's populate what you're gonna populate, and then we'll see whether there's any additional input to be had from the departments. But I think that spreadsheet is sort of the lay of the land from which you can project future based on history.
Yeah, that's, we wanna get it to a point where it's,
Yeah.
How do we want to leave this one? Maybe leave it.
Let's put Brian on it.
Yeah.
And then-
I guess
He's
one
gonna
question
do it
is,
anyway, on this one, and then we'll see whether there's any, any opportunity to get to the state you're looking at.
has anybody else done it? Maybe somebody knows of another town that has a 5 or 10, or I guess Northborough.
Northbrook.
I'm using the format that I got from the Department of Revenue because they basically provide, for towns that want to do this sort of forecasting, they provide a template of how you should do it.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's what I'm using. That's what I'm trying to use.
And that's
I think
that's
you
a
sound like
start,
the primary responsible person.
Yeah. Turn it over to
It's a start, and I don't think that we're gonna get to the end state in 1 year.
Yeah.
I also don't want to torture the towns.
Okay. We'll keep,
Go to the next one.
we'll keep chugging on that. Hey, we're done. Fantastic. Add ups to meeting agendas and correct materials.
I think we'll have plenty.
We're getting lots of homework.
Good, I like it.
Well, I mean, so Ted, if you have an objection to that being ongoing, what would be a good way to ensure that our process does add depth to meeting agendas?
What's an example of depth?
I don't know.
Well, so what do you guys, what are you looking for when it comes to preparing for a meeting? Do you feel like there's information that you're not getting? Do you feel like we want the information sooner? I mean, we talked a little bit about that.
I think getting it sooner and the opportunity to review it and have our questions ready is helpful. I'm not sure, what the scope of our committee is to really look at the budget and understand what the upcoming issues are. What, is it reasonable, is it not reasonable? I'm not sure you can do much more than that. Right?
And I don't know if we will get more in-depth information on requests for supplemental funding. That really depends. Maybe we get some information on that. Maybe it would be nice to get it a little earlier so we can review it, but I don't know.
Like if we're having a meeting on a Tuesday, when would you want your materials?
Ideally Friday.
Yeah, at least by Friday.
At least by Friday.
Yeah, because if you get some ideas on the weekend, then you want to go to the town hall and check out get some data or.
Well, the town hall is.
Wanted to get a hold of
Well,
the
we go to Monday,
department
that
heads,
leaves
so
Monday to do
Yeah.
that, Monday, basically.
Leaves you no time,
Right.
you have to
I mean, I
contact
think
someone.
to a certain degree, this is redundant with some of the other
I
things that
think
you
so.
asked for.
It has an overlap.
Yeah.
That's-
Because if we get some more of the, do more research and understand what the departments are, or understand what the schedule is, and understand what the challenges are, that gives us a lot of what we'd be looking for here.
Thank you.
All right, moving to the next column, general process. We talked about signing statements, but we weren't really, we didn't get into the nitty gritty. Do we only have a signing statement if it's a certain type of, you're voting on an article, is
I
that
would
it?
do this only if the member wants to make one. Yeah.
Because a
basically.
member can also stand up at town meeting and give a statement.
Maybe if there's something that you feel
Right.
driven to say, you should be able to say it in this, I do not agree with this because X, Y, Z.
I would have liked.
I think
to
it's
have
optional.
At the last town meeting.
Hmm? I'm sorry.
It was your article. I would have truly liked to defend my vote when
And I think that should be at our desire, so to speak. If we feel it is important to make a statement, we should have the flexibility to do that.
So we have done away with the stricture which was imposed, I don't even know which chairman of the board of selectmen did that, where you could not have, you either,
It was a yes or a
it
no.
was a yes or a no by
No
the committee
explanation.
with no, not saying approve 4-2 or
What was
something.
that?
That was Larry.
Larry, yes, okay, Larry did that, yeah, so that's gone by the board, so, but gone by the wayside, okay, good.
So we should check with whomever whether we can activate that.
I think we did,
We did it.
If we
did,
did, that's
okay.
right.
We did
I
it.
guess the only thing is the signing statement, and I guess that goes along with if you feel strongly enough about something that you want to stand at the town meeting, or I would guess it would be at the members' discretion. I would have no problem with that.
Right?
Unless we had one member who kept saying, I
Want to
don't.
say,
Yeah.
You know, nobody goes in. Is that, is you puzzled?
No, I'm just thinking through, like, I'm trying to imagine a scenario where we would ever want to proactively include a written explanation of a vote beyond just what the vote was. And,
Well, if there's someone who has a strong dissent, do we give them the opportunity to say, I vote against this because they, see? I don't know.
Yeah,
what
because
you're
usually, when you vote for something, if it's a warrant article, and we are talking about warrant articles, right?
Right.
Pretty much. If you vote yes, you're agreeing with the argument.
Right.
You don't need to explain
Right.
why you voted yes.
So it's a
Although,
dissent.
although that's not always true, because there have been people who have voted yes because they didn't agree with the whole of the warrant article, but on principle. Some people have voted for, and I can remember a number of times,
Do we need
a
to
couple of
burden,
advisory members have done
yeah,
that.
do we need to burden the town, the few brave souls who attend town meeting with that, adding that text to the town warrant?
Would it be more effective if someone standing at a meeting and saying why they voted no?
Which has happened, I mean, people have done that.
Occasionally, a lot of
What's
times,
the,
sometimes people actually ask
Yeah.
the
Right.
advisory committee, but sometimes it's never asked or it's not asked. And
is,
You might want,
is there a problem you want to solve here?
I'm not sure that there
What
is.
it is.
I'm not sure that there is.
The words that we had on the whiteboard, and I don't even know whose they were, but said explore use of signing statements, and then in parentheses opinions, to make constraints explicit.
yeah, so one of the examples that came up was, and maybe you were thinking of this too, where somebody voted in favor of a warrant article because representations had been made that basically we had to. Like, that we would be out of compliance with the contract if we didn't
Right.
vote in favor of it. So perhaps if that had been an explicit, if we had said, we are voting in favor of this because,
it's contractual.
right? And then if other information were to arise at town meeting,
Oh, so you're
I'm not
talking
saying-
about a
I'm
signing
thinking
statement?
principle over the marijuana
Right.
thing. You know, I don't want it, but yet I should vote.
It's the greater
For
good
what was-
to vote
because-
for.
I need, yeah, we can control it more by vote for it, although I'm against it, you know, so.
Yeah, and these signing
Those kind of
statements
things.
could be at our advisory meeting. I mean, it could be an oral statement, actually,
I can remember a couple of,
or part of the minutes.
Instances
But I do
where-
remember a number of these contractual things where
Yeah.
none of us thought it made sense, but we felt we had.
it's like if I don't vote for it, then this will happen.
I think all we need
And
to
if I
do,
you know, so
With this new,
I'm gonna vote for it, although I'm not agreeing with it.
with this new information, it doesn't sound like it's a dissenting vote that needs explanation, but
Maybe
an
the
overall
committee
vote, yes.
I think all that we need to do at this meeting is be open to the possibility, if we agree to this, be open to the possibility of a quote signing statement at the time we vote on something in advisory, and it becomes part of the minutes, and we edit and wordsmith this thing in the minutes. And then from there, we have to reassess again if we want to say it or write it in a meeting or something. But it's in the minutes,
But you know, we can also.
it's in the record.
But nobody's ever gonna see the record.
But
Right.
it's here
But we could have,
contemporaneous with the decision, and then we can decide if we use it later at a petition.
exactly. And you know what, you can kind of feel the temperament of the people who are at the meeting, whether or not you feel like you might want to express why or why not. You know, depending on how contentious things are over something.
I think I remember Chris Slade used to speak.
Okay.
How they would eat.
So,
Really? Yeah.
so this would not be a written statement at all. I was thinking of something to stick in article.
Like in the,
Or the town tax.
Meaning under the advisory recommendation.
Right.
We reluctantly vote yes because we have to.
Well, I we hadn't considered this ever. I mean, this is great, something new, and we're just saying that it's a tool, and if we think we need
You need it?
we'll use it. And we're now aware of it. So
Right.
if there's no other discussion on that, let's see, consider more active
That's an
engagement
awesome
of the tri-town group.
We increase the size.
I think that ties in with what we were talking about with the regional school.
Mhm.
I know I've only attended one tri-town meeting,
I've only been to three.
and it was very useful and informative, and I just thought, well, I meet on Tuesday, and I'm meeting on Wednesday, and how much time do we want to devote to this, but we're,
Only 4 times a year, 3 times a year.
yeah.
I think tri-town meetings can be
It
very,
can be very useful.
can be very productive. And they
I
could
agree.
be the start of a conversation about regionalization of some service. They could be the start of a conversation about best practices around something that each of the 3 towns does, and what does it cost you and you and you, and
Agreed.
are we all kind of in the same cost situation? And kind of drive in the direction of delivering more value to the taxpayers. Not just reporting out what we're doing, but,
You had me at hello, Ted.
What?
You had me at hello on that one. I don't know whether, we just need to define what that is when the meetings are and who wants to go. I mean, that's fairly, I agree with you 100%, but it would be helpful for all those conversations to provide opportunities to brainstorm and see opportunities that we could consolidate, recommend some efficiencies. So I agree with you 100%.
Maybe put an item, initiatives to deliver greater value to taxpayers. Which is a broad umbrella, I mean, a lot of stuff, doesn't
It seems to me that you need.
Say that again, Tim?
it? Initiatives to deliver more value to taxpayers. And you can put under that umbrella, regionalization, benchmarking, best practices, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I would take out the first each, your first.
Yeah,
Well, I added that before Ted said this. so-
Right, I know.
Sure.
And I can say I've been totally unsuccessful in a kind of little side project to compare snow and ice expenditures of our 3 towns.
really.
And I've met with 2 of the town administrators and, one of the DPW people, and I've collected data from one town and gotten positive reactions from another and another reaction. If you talk about things moving slowly and like going through quicksand or So I failed, and I thought that might be something people would, in 1 week, you could pull numbers off of the budget line item and see how we all compare. It may have a second life.
I think you could almost,
We will not give up hope.
at least to some degree, I think you can go to the public records of the other two towns and find the line items on their budget.
I did.
Okay.
Well, it's
And that
also,
wasn't
it's also something that we could, theoretically, it should be the DPW guys talking to each other and then coming.
Well, that's, once you get the three data sets, then sharing has to be
Yeah,
done in
they
a way
can also,
that,
I think they could do that easily and more effectively than some.
then you get them
Yeah.
talking to each other. Right.
Yeah, so,
But that's the reason for tri-town, you get the three towns
Yeah.
talking,
yeah.
and whatever it takes to get people
I
talking
think
about
that's the
it.
forum to start a conversation.
So,
So should we have a liaison for somebody who attends? At least one member of our advisory should attend every tri-town meeting.
Rotate,
Yeah, we should have a dot there or a dash relative to attendance, and whether it's just a try to attend or I think it's several of them.
one thing that's obvious, but you really can't just like, I don't think, just bring up something and start talking about it at tri-town. I think
So you submit, there's a message goes out asking for items.
Okay.
Yeah, they're seeking agenda items.
Who facilitates it?
It rotates each town,
Each town hosts.
posts it,
So, when it's tri-town, I mean, who in the town
And their
facilitates?
cookies.
Does Ron do it, or does?
I think it's.
so I select.
So, it's actually, my understanding is it's pretty, like if we saw the request for agenda items and then we had a discussion and we said, oh, we'd actually like to see A, B, and C, we
Then
can
you get on
submit it.
Right.
Yeah.
But the trick is that if anything that we want to suggest as an item might be construed as requesting information from somebody else, whether it be the district or another town, we have to tread very carefully.
Yes.
Because people get,
Yeah, they want that.
Has
Like-
Ted found out.
it can be construed as a burden because it's like, oh, well, so we have to frame it like starting a discussion about or exploring
Yeah.
whatever, rather than saying like, hey, we want you guys to report to us about A, B, and C. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
and it is broadcast, so, there's certain, discussions that are appropriate for that.
All right.
Okay, we're gonna get there. Discuss what level of detail info expect to have before being able to vote on an issue.
I think we've already
Is that
done
redundant?
with that. That seems redundant to me.
Unless somebody has a recollection of 14,
I think it's,
said we need to educate ourselves, various levels of detail. Oh, I think there might have been a thought that maybe one of us on the committee got too much detail sometimes.
I don't think it's that, I think we were trying to get some routine amount of input before we make a vote, but I'm not sure we can really define what that is.
I think I'm okay with
I
moving
think
through
we've
this.
covered that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep us too long, but one thing that I'm wondering about is, we all probably have different thresholds for when we would vote no on something, but we've never actually really talked about what those thresholds are for each of us, and I feel like it's only fair to the people coming in for them to know, like, how are we thinking about that? Like, so for example, would any one of us ever vote no on the school budget? And if the answer is yes, like, why? What would be the threshold for us?
I don't think we know that we see it.
But is that fair?
Well, but you don't have the information, a vote no is based on data and information presented by the department. Until you know and understand that, you can't make a decision how you vote.
Well, I guess the reason that I'm looking at the school is because typically we get a number, right? We just get a number.
I thought we addressed that somewhere else
No, but there are
Oh,
other,
so
there are
they're
other
not-
things where we just basically get a number, and it's like, I do think, maybe I'm pushing back, but I don't think it's just
though. I
something
don't
where.
think we can define the level of detail that we require. I think it's a situational thing. Someone comes in with a number, and we have every license to say, I'm very sorry, we don't have enough backup to make this decision, and we want X, Y, Z. We don't, we have these three questions. I don't think you could define a level of detail you need for every department decision.
We can't sit here and define it, but when it comes, when you're in the meeting
You
and,
know it when you see it
and
though.
people are telling you, we need to do this, and then we say, we're gonna push it off a week, and then you go to the building and you look at the painting that they wanted to do and the carpeting they wanted to do and everything. The threshold for the no is, you know, you measure what you see
Right,
against
right.
your own standards.
But that only emerges with the conversation with the department in the first place.
No.
Right.
If we don't have enough information to have a decision. So I don't think we can pre-decide what
Can't
the
pre-
department
Fire
requires. I just don't
department
think
wanted
that's.
And then they
And
have
it's
to
gonna
come-
change
they have to change
situationally.
it. Is that what you're asking, something like that, or?
I think it comes back to telling how things are now,
Yeah.
and
I
how.
love that.
how
So
you
I'm
want-
just saying, I think this
I
is
mean,
the
the numbers were so high,
everybody, yeah.
and it was not unnecessary. Before
you
they
can't
even
make a
came to the
decision.
pitch.
Unless you
Why
understand,
you should have it.
you have the detail, it's gonna change
So,
situation.
a couple of us were like that. I don't know.
Um,
I'm just thinking of a department that wanted something, and I knew before they even walked in the door, because of the amount, that it was gonna be a no for me, that they had to convince me
Mhm.
to change to yes. I didn't have to wait for them to show me, or, you know, I didn't have to see it, but I had a feeling, and I knew they were gonna have a presentation. But I knew automatically it was a no. And,
Well, that gets back to the conversation we had earlier about what we really need people to understand and define the current situation. What, you know, what they propose as changes and what the quantifiable benefits are.
right, but then according to this though, when you said, you will know it when you see, you cannot, you have to have all the data and everything in
All
order to
I'm
be able to say
saying is I think
no.
that thing is redundant to what we've already done, and I'm not sure you can, everybody has a different threshold of what information they need.
But this is exactly what I'm getting at, Ann. So I think that there might be some people who want to go as far into the details as they possibly can, and then there are other people who say, you know what, I need a certain amount of detail, but I also trust the exercise of discretion by this person. But we've never been explicit
But
about
Brian,
that.
I don't understand how you can, I mean, we can discuss the level of detail, it's going to be situational, it's going to be depending on the department. I don't think we can develop a level that one size fits all.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to talk among
Among
ourselves
ourselves.
about how we each approach it. Not that we're gonna say, this is how you have to come in, but it's like, I probably think about it differently from you, but we've never talked about that.
But
And I-
doesn't
okay, that's totally
that
different.
conversation
Are you saying have a
originate
general
with you?
conversation
Yeah.
on that?
Among
or
ourselves.
Specific to a mass?
But it's all specific to an ask.
Maybe.
I see what you're saying now, and I thought that the level of detail is something we would somehow give to the department heads, and that we've already covered. So just letting people know what our philosophies are among ourselves.
Well, like, so one of us might, like, if a department head came in and said, you know what, like, we had this many programs, and I needed a person there this many hours to be able to handle those programs. One of us here might say, oh, that makes sense, I'm satisfied, you showed what the programs were, you said why you needed the head count there to cover them. Like, I'm going to defer to your expert opinion that this is the way you want to manage your department. So somebody here might take that position. A different person might say, No, I wanna see the underlying detail for what those programs were, how many residents benefited, blah, 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 blah. I'm just trying to make explicit that I think we're all coming at it from slightly different
Sure we are.
levels of what we're expecting, but we've never actually talked about that. And I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
No,
I see what you're saying.
Right?
Well, you
Yeah,
can-
because if you have programs, you can always not do the one that's the least important.
My
and-
feeling is that
And you do have resources for this other deal.
we will always, I don't think for every single request, we have the same approach, either to the request or by individual. We're all looking at it from a different point of view. I think that just evolves through the conversation. I mean, there are some things that I feel very strongly about and I'm watching, there are other things that I'm more willing to be convinced by. So I just don't understand how you could define a level of detail.
Well, and you've heard of In God We Trust, All Others Bring Data.
Yes. I mean, this is why I was getting down to this quantifiable thing, that I really want to get some idea from folks, you know. Tell me what it is you're doing, why it's important, and, you know, what's the benefit? Give data.
Okay.
So I just have a hard time trying to quantify that into something as an action that we would end up with a piece of paper that would say, what's the level that we expect? We can have a conversation informally, but what you expect on is going to be different sometimes from what I expect.
And it's not gonna be the same for everything,
Right.
probably.
Right, I think that maybe it's too,
Can you see?
I just want to point out that it says, discuss what levels of detail and info we
And we're
expect to have, and that's
discussing it.
exactly what
That's
we're
what we're
doing.
Then
I wasn't
let's say-
saying
Okay, then we can
Send
say
a
done.
mandate, right, okay, I think we're being,
You can just say continue.
well, say ongoing.
Ongoing, yes.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
Because
ongoing.
a lot of that will come out during our
And I think that
discussions
does
with
come
Ryan.
up in terms of our debates and
Right.
conversations, like, you know.
No, I think that's good. How should we increase?
That is
our
mission
span of influence? That's my 10%.
So,
Yeah, we're managing a budget, or in fact, we even used in our annual report the word, oversee or something. And when you're only touching 10%,
Well,
and maybe that's it, but it just seems,
So that doesn't go from a one.
yeah, that was my question, actually.
what?
That we had some discussion at this other meeting,
Right,
Oh,
right.
right.
who has
Who has the
budgetary
control?
control
Who's
and so on.
The
Who's
owner
there for
of the
public
budget,
good?
right?
our title is advisory.
But I believe either in other communities or in the bylaws, or how do you, maybe for other communities, I'm not sure. The advisory committee has a much higher role, much more significant role.
Well, in some towns they call it a finance committee, but
We were called a finance
we
company
were at one
at
time.
one time.
Okay.
And then, I don't know how, that would be, we want to find out why advisory now.
I thought we went through this
We
stuff the last
did, you
meeting.
did, you told us.
So,
Yeah, so, I mean, it is, I wonder if I even have the general law, but I mean, it's clear under the general law, and we as a town have not adopted any bylaws that would depart from the general law, that it's the finance committee's responsibility to present the budget at town meeting.
And we do those things that are necessary to present a responsible budget.
But one of the questions too was, can that selectmen override something that we have voted against?
Sure.
you know,
Sure. They can give a
We're
recommendation that's different from ours.
With the budget, because
So.
we own the budget.
Yeah, so this is what the MGL says, in every town having a committee appointed under the authority of this section, which we do. Such committee shall submit a budget at the annual town meeting. That's what the statute says.
Because we always everything deferred to the selectmen, like their budget. And if they don't like something we did, they can change it.
I don't think they can.
They don't change
They
it,
do.
what they can do is give a different recommendation.
Well, they change,
Oh.
no, I'm saying if we have decided on a line item, and this is what we have labored over, they can change it.
That's right.
Right.
You're right.
They can change it.
They can change it at town meeting by standing up and saying change it?
No, they
or-
No.
can change it before it ever goes to print.
Because they finalize the
They can,
warrant.
yes, and we did that on salary before, and we did it on, they overrode, when we did not want to add another personnel to council on aging, and they decided, no, you know what? We won't.
I see that sheet, yeah.
So, that's my beef. Well, I don't know, is that?
Well, that's
So
very
it's like
interesting that
82.
the Mass General Law and our practice are disconnected.
That's my,
So.
Well, we present the budget, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a budget that we like.
I don't,
Does the selectmen are the ones who submit the budget hearing?
then we should, no, we shouldn't be. I
they
think
should
it's well
be
done.
according to the,
Well,
Last
that
law.
may be.
So it sounds like we need to change our span of influence here, or
That's
more clear.
I agree.
You're good in the urgent.
All right, you go ahead and present that to the town fathers. The
Well,
cheerful, courteous, and friendly town fathers.
They are, but we're not.
That's right.
I mean, the people
Exactly.
through the elected officials.
Yeah, they appoint us.
So
I
I don't understand the
Only
law.
one of those.
Feel a little excited.
Who's
That's right, there's one of them.
The chairman.
That's right.
So I think this is largely a question of when do we ever want to invoke this sort of a thing?
Well, when they start changing things we've all decided on or voted to do, and then they decide, you know,
I
to
don't-
change it.
I don't think we need to define that. I think it's, you know, really, it's a conversation we have with the board of selectmen, should there be a disagreement?
But whether we
It doesn't have to take
present,
place in public, it doesn't have to be something we codify.
whether we present or we advise, if we're only impacting 10%, then that's horrible.
Well, unfortunately, that's.
I'll be glad to send my
Yeah, we'll get
spreadsheet
over
and
it.
let you all look at it.
No, I understand.
And, but other people, I mean, so then we should step back, okay, we only kind of, let's say, manage 10%. How is the other 90% managed? And maybe, you know, if it's managed very well, that's great.
Well,
But there should be
Percentage of
names
that
on-
doesn't change though. I mean, that can't actually be managed.
And the debt is a little bit misleading, I should
Yeah.
probably take that out.
Yes.
That gets less than
Yeah,
that.
I don't know what percentage it
And
is.
schools is what, 65?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean,
55.
What, 65?
Yeah, we're talking about 14.5.
Or more, we might be doing it or not.
I thought it was 60.
I think we should be.
Oh, I'm doing education, all schools.
What?
We were talking about how large the education fraction is. And if you take 14.5 divided by 23, that's the, and that includes minimum, which I think we need to.
Oh, that's right, yes.
63 homework.
60, yeah, that's right, that was close to 64.
60?
63.
63, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I was saying, 63, Wow.
Do you want to keep moving?
Okay.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, we're getting there.
Yes.
We're gonna be done. Utilize website to share information, store historical data, provide data bank for resident experts. Whoa.
That was a bunch of different things, but you had suggested, Ted, that there might be people in town who have expertise that can be drawn upon when we're dealing with.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking, maybe not a an acute effort to identify these people, but as they become known to us, keep kind of a resource file if I have a question about X. Yeah, here's a guy in town that really knows about that. Because we can't know, this is to increase our knowledge level of certain subjects. So it's maybe more theoretical. But the website to share information. I don't know, let's see.
These last two are honestly more toward the end of our process,
Mhm.
about what we want to make available to people before town meeting.
The what was the annual town meeting, can we solicit residents' questions prior to 8 p.m.? Research answers in advance.
In a way, this would be an offline version of the chat session we have, or the budget discussion session we have a week or two before town meeting, I think.
Right, and that is often not attended as well as it could be.
Maybe it's because it's in person and people have.
No, I think the idea of maybe taking some questions, except that the questions are gonna be, why are my taxes going up? You know?
You can probably, if you're asking for questions, you can probably couch that or
Yeah.
make specific that you want specific questions, or more specific than why are my taxes always going up.
Well, I don't know, I think it's, a lot of people go in and know some of the questions they want to ask ahead of time.
Sure.
So how do we tap into that?
Well, then it would help us improve our presentation.
Well, I think the other thing is there's vehicles that we could communicate to residents, whether it's bulletin board, they're looking for questions you might have about X, Y, Z.
If we want residents' questions, we at every advisory committee meeting, just a simple statement to the viewers that if you guys have any questions or comments,
Yeah.
here's the
Nice.
guy or
Put
gal.
it inside the warrant.
And Brian, in the warrant article, we put in there, if anybody has any questions on these articles or whatever, call, we had all our names listed. So that's kind of the spirit of that.
But I don't think people read it quite the same way. Do you? If you have any questions, call us. Maybe not a specific, something that they want to bring up at town meeting, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, you'd be great to hear from people.
I think it
You just
would.
have a general question or a general invitation. If you have any interest or any
Right.
concerns, please let us know and just be done with it. Because I think trying to get anything more rigid is, you're not gonna get it. Some people will respond and some people will have a question, so you just make the invitation.
I don't think I've ever been called. Have anybody?
No.
Has anybody been called?
But have our email addresses and phone numbers been published?
Oh, everybody, if you're not using your .biz account, you really need to, and here's why. If we're ever subject to a FOIA request and you're not
Right.
using your .biz account, then they're gonna be able to access your personal email.
They're gonna what?
They'll be able to access your personal email. So, is anybody not able to access their .biz account because if
I had trouble, but I don't think it had to do with the .biz account. I had trouble printing out some of the attachments. And sometimes I can't access it when I'm at the Cape, which is actually a lot. I don't know. I was able finally to link my iPad. It was my lack of expertise. I don't have a computer at the Cape, although I think I'm going to have to break down a file for my laptop.
this is for Penny.
I think under the last one, we could put a dash, solicit questions at end of advisory meeting or something.
Yeah.
just as we sign off or
And then-
something. Or even at the beginning, you know, when we say this is the advisory meeting, 7 o'clock, and if anybody has any questions,
Well,
just,
even, I don't know if they do it, if our selectmen do it, but I know in some municipalities, they actually have like a 10-minute period at the beginning and the end of the meeting for citizen comments at their meetings. I know my brother-in-law, who is now mayor of this small community in Florida, assuming it hasn't been washed away, yeah, I think he escaped, but he said they always open the meeting with 5 minutes for citizens' comments, and then they close the meeting with that. Well, I don't think we want to do that, but we could maybe
5 minutes of silent meditation, because there's no.
That's
Keep our
fine.
phone number.
Brian, if you really want to beg for questions, the BAT TV could have a scroll across the,
Yeah.
here's Brian's personal telephone.
So here's an idea for you. May not work, whatever. Advisory questions at townofbolton.biz. And then whoever wants to go look at it, maybe you before every meeting or whatever. Maybe there's a administrator who gets to dole those questions out to the appropriate liaison or what have you. So on, yeah, that sort of thing. Or perhaps on
The town website.
On the town website, we have a place you can submit a thing.
Right, the town website is problematic.
It's so fun. That was very nice.
Everybody knows email except for people who don't do email, which there are still some.
Yeah, I guess there are.
Some people don't even have a computer or iPad or anything.
That's right.
Anything else?
Those people out there.
No, I mean, I think like, honestly, one thing we should do is, and maybe Ted will be the PPR for this, but we should, like, you should always, once this is done, you should always have a copy of it at a meeting, and so that we're able to remind ourselves as applicable things come up, like how it relates to something, or, you know, because somebody might have an idea at the meeting about how to solicit questions or generate more information, and we just want to keep this in the back of our head, I think.
Let's try to do that.
So, we good?
Yeah.
All right.
Save and exit.
Okay, I'm
Did
gonna
you go
mail this
save?
to you on the first address that comes up. I'm not always sure it's the biz one. So I'm just gonna do it now, okay? A picture of all our numbers.
Oh,
So do we need a motion to adjourn?
What are you saying?
I took a picture of this and I'm sending it to everybody.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
everybody has all the
Okay.
numbers.
I'll move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.